Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would, address the topic. I had someone kind of chime in and say something like, hey Jason, I mean, if we were going to be objective, would you consider someone who uses moderate amounts of, say, testosterone, would that be better or worse than someone who's 30% body fat? Would it be better or worse in terms of just health outcomes, fitness, everything else than someone who, say, drinks every weekend? And let's be realistic here. Objectively, it's milestones better. It's milestones better. And now that'll upset people, and they're like, but don't you point out frequently that a lot of these bodybuilders who are abusing things are dying really young? It's like, but they're not doing moderate amounts, and that's what people need to understand. I don't know how else to make this clear, and it's probably because people are not familiar with what these people take versus more moderate users of these things. They don't really realize that these are not even close to normal comparisons. Okay, when someone says a moderate amount of testosterone, I'm thinking 200 to 500 milligrams, right? That's a moderate amount. There's human clinical trials done on this. Like this is not something we haven't studied. Okay, generally speaking, healthy men who are given those sorts of amounts, and that is super physiological in the human clinical trials, their health outcomes don't really get worse. Meaning, in some cases, you'll see some minor negative shifts in cholesterol. That's about it. And we're talking about like 5-month-long studies, 6-month-long studies. That's what you see. Their cholesterol gets a little worse. Is it enough that we would be freaking out worse? No, but it is a little worse. Only on the higher end of that spectrum, though, of what I just listed. I think it's usually like when they do the studies on 500 or 600. It's usually what you see. Yeah, LDL will go up a little, HDL goes down a little. But when you compare that to the lifestyle of the average person, eating at McDonald's twice a week would have that same effect. Okay? So put that into perspective. Is anyone out there telling people, oh, it's extremely dangerous to eat at McDonald's every Friday afternoon? Well, if you're going to use that level of logic, then you should be screaming that. Okay? I mean, that will have a very small but measurable impact on your lipid profile. So we come over though and we look at the other things by comparison. They're not comparable though in that sense. Meaning these bodybuilders aren't taking that. They're taking 5, 8, 10,000. Okay, notice I said 2 to 500. Okay. That's the people who are dropping like flies. And they're using a whole cocktail of stuff with it. They might be on 8 different things with testosterone levels that are 50 to 100 times normal. And again, when you say that, people think you're exaggerating and like, well, how do they even get that into their body? The logistics of it are crazy. They're basically a walking pincushion. So it is crazy that they can physically do it. So it's when we make that comparison, it's like to put it in terms that people would understand with alcohol. Classify that what I described as the modest users as someone who has a drink every Friday. I didn't say goes out drinking. Person who has a glass of wine with their dinner on Friday night. Okay, that's your context for what I just described. The bodybuilders who are dropping dead are using 100 times that in some cases, or 50 times that. Okay, plus other stuff. So it's almost like the equivalent of saying, comparing that, and then if the average serious hardcore professional bodybuilder, again, these guys are having these health problems, it would be the equivalent of them drinking an entire 5th of whiskey every night before bed 7 days a week. Well, obviously that level of abuse of anything is insane. Just the physical logistics of them getting it into their body are insane. right? Just physically putting it into their body, of even the process of doing it, is insane. So it's not it's not really comparable. So when we go back and we talk about those other things, but then you look at studies and it's like, what does the blood work look like for a person who goes binge drinking? They drink every Friday night. I mean, really drink. I'm talking eight plus drinks. Well, what does their blood work usually look like? What does their health markers look like? Well, it looks considerably worse than those clinical trials on testosterone. Okay? That's a fair objective comparison. Yeah, they're probably more unhealthy. It is a greater health risk. All right, how about being 30% body fat? Ooh, for a male, because women have a different scale, of course. Their normal is higher than ours for a whole host of reasons. All right, so 30% body. Look at the average. Even a man who lifts weights and works out and goes to the gym goes at 30% body fat, compared to a leaner, fitter person who is in that other area I described. What does their blood work look like by comparison? What is their inflammatory markers, their lipid profile, fasting glucose, all that look like? Dramatically worse. Dramatically worse. By an enormous margin on average. So, again, if we set aside opinions and you come over and ask that question, right? Because what I just described, that person's going to have the potential to be bigger than every natty on earth, in theory. Okay? If they were to apply the same amount of work ethic and time and years and diet, they would be bigger than every natural on earth, if they applied their same lifestyle and workload with what they're doing. So again, that counts as enhanced. But you compare that to those other things, it is healthier. It is healthier. And again, that's not a matter of opinion. That's if we quantify what we can measure, what people's blood work, what their health markers look like. It's objectively healthier. In some cases, there's no negative health. What? Yeah. There are absolutely people who do what I described who have perfect health markers on their blood work. They do exist also. So last time you saw healthy markers on blood work for someone at 30% body fat. Like textbook perfect. Probably not. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.